What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today, as usual, we've got some more Destiny 2 stuff to talk about. It's a very critical point for the game right now. Faction Rally obviously did not go down too well. We're still waiting to see how the January update next week and also Crimson Days next month turns out. But Bungie have been fairly active on various places of the internet. Lots of different developers have been talking about plans for future updates and DLCs on forums and Twitter and comment sections, blog posts. So I've gone through and collected all the interesting bits of info you probably missed. And as always, do let me know your thoughts on these things as we go through them. So let's begin talking about exotics, returning exotics, hidden quest lines, secrets, things like that. Something you probably noticed is very absent from Destiny 2 is, of course, the kind of secret quest, very similar to Black Spindle, Sleeper Simulant, Outbreak Prime. Obviously, we still do have some things like the Mida, the Rat King, the Sturm, which are, I guess, exotic quests, but they're not hidden, they're not secret. There's not really much accomplishment to actually get them because they're literally pointed out to you, here's what to do and why to do them. So it's definitely not comparable to things like Black Spindle or Outbreak Prime, which were incredibly complicated and actually took a bit of problem solving to figure out. As it turns out, the good news is that those are going to be returning. Sleeper Simulant, Black Spindle type things are going to be inside Destiny 2 in future expansions. So someone called Adam on Twitter asked Christopher Barrett, who we all know very well right now, is very active on Twitter, will there ever be hidden quests like Black Spindle or Outbreak Prime again? Those types of quests are non-existent in Destiny 2 and they were brilliant, which I definitely agree with. And Chris simply said, yep. So you can kind of pair that with what he said previously a couple weeks back, how they plan on adding more hidden secrets, scannables, collectibles, those kind of things in future expansions. So if you are a fan of those super complex exotic puzzles like Outbreak Prime, or those super difficult and punishing ones like Black Spindle, which are actually the two exotics he mentioned in the question, the good news is those are returning inside future DLCs. Now, the topic of DLC exotics, something that has been a very big topic since Destiny 2's launch, and especially with Curse of Osiris coming out, has been returning Destiny 1 exotics. We have seen quite a lot of old ones return, and obviously by now, most people are not a fan of the idea for obvious reasons. Now, Chris was asked if there'll be any more returning exotics from Destiny 1, and he replied saying, yes, new exotics are going to be a higher priority, but we'll be bringing back some old favorites too. So going off the game currently, as of right now, the base game had quite a lot of old exotics return, probably about 50-50, and even Curse of Osiris as well. I counted them up, and there were 9 new exotics and 8 old ones from Destiny 1, so it has been very even so far. It's also worth noting out those 9 new exotics in the DLC, 3 of them, of course, were those Eon Gauntlets, so they kind of count as one, to be honest. So pretty much across the board, there's about as much old stuff as there is new stuff. That's looking to be changing. Going off Chris's tweet, they're going to be focusing more on new stuff, which I think most of you will probably agree with. But of course, let me know what you think of this down below in the comments. Are you a fan of seeing old stuff like Telesto and Jade Rabbit come back? I mean, if it was up to me, I wouldn't have any of the old things return. I'm a fan of all new stuff personally. The only thing I do like is things like the Crimson, for example, because it is basically a new weapon. It's not just simply Red Death copy and pasted. It's actually a new gun just inspired of something else. So things like the Crimson I'm all for, but anything else, I pretty much would rather new stuff, to be honest. So moving on to some talk about vendors, some pretty funny and also interesting stuff going on here. Cosmo replied to a couple posts and people talking about vendors inside the tower. Someone called Elscape13 said, Bungie could remove Amanda Holiday right now and nobody would notice, which I definitely agree with. She is hands down the most useless vendor in the entire game. So Cosmo replied saying, how would you like to see Amanda changed to make her more relevant? So it seems they're actually looking into upgrading her and making her more of an important character. There were quite a few good suggestions in the thread. Someone called Hammer Time said reroll sparrows, selling rare sparrows, selling legendary ships, mod sales, sparrow racing, and an exotic quest. And Cosmo said, nice list, thanks. So that feedback is going to be passed on. Obviously, that doesn't mean they're just going to simply do all those things on that list, but when they're looking into feedback, they're going to take this kind of stuff into account. And who knows, maybe sometime soon, Amanda won't be the most useless vendor in the entire tower. I mean, I guess it isn't her fault because Tess pretty much stole all the stuff that she would sell, those ships and sparrows and cosmetic things. So let's hope they make Amanda a pretty interesting vendor with some useful purposes. Now, another vendor in the tower that Bungie are looking into for a different reason is actually Banshee the Gunsmith. It seems he's got a very strange bug going on, which is very, very random. But as you probably know, Banshee does, of course, sell those 3 legendary mods that are on daily rotation. Now, someone called Captain Tiger found out that if you have more than 13 stacks of the blue mods with more than 3 in each stack, the Gunsmith is going to offer you a different set of those 3 mods. It's really weird, but it gives you a completely different rotation. You have a different choice, basically. So I guess you can use this to your advantage if you have that many blue mods in your inventory. They do have to be in your inventory and not the vault. But if you don't like what the Gunsmith is offering you for a particular day, you can just get a bunch of mods and he's going to offer you something else when you hit that cap of 13 stacks. Now, this isn't actually a secret feature, it is a bug. Cosmo said, thanks for bringing it to our attention. It is something that isn't supposed to happen, but they're currently working on investigating and fixing it. But there you go, something you probably didn't know. If you have enough mods, you can actually change the Gunsmith's inventory. So moving on, let's talk a bit about the Crucible and Sandbox. So as you probably remember, Josh Hamrick from Bungie was one of the lead designers and kind of developers on the Sandbox, kind of buffing and nerfing things and doing a lot of cool changes towards the end of Destiny 1. And Popebear on Twitter asked him what the Bungie team sees as the pain points of the community that's influencing upcoming solutions. So Josh replied with what Bungie are generally trying to do with the Sandbox at the moment and what he's working on. He said, at the highest level, we want to make you feel more like a god as you're playing the game. I think that will influence all of our decisions, and I believe if you totally condense it down to a single statement is what I'm hearing from the community as well. Now, someone replied saying, can you talk about the strategy either in parts or as a whole that Bungie has devised to reach that goal? And Josh replied with a gif of someone basically whacking the volume all the way up, so I guess that's also a way to describe it. I think that's fairly on point with what the community does want to see right now. Basically everything turned up a notch and basically cranked up. So faster time to kill, faster abilities, faster movement speed, more power ammo, and more just fun and craziness overall. Now obviously there is a limit to this because Destiny 1 was heavily criticized for just how crazy it was. People said there was way too many abilities, too many grenades, too many supers, too much stuff going on. So they are, again, obviously you have to try and find a happy medium between those 2 points. Back in Destiny 1 we had things like Titan skating and Warlock skating, and even Hunter better control jump with Bones of Ao. So some people loved it, some people hated it. But so far, we know Destiny 2 is going to be getting cranked up a notch. We know that, of course, adding 6v6 in a couple months from now, which is also definitely going to make things a lot more crazy. But so far, these are the Sandbox team's goals. So moving on to some quick and miscellaneous bits of info that was clarified on Twitter. Someone asked about the emote system and how it's actually going to work. Is it going to be an emote wheel or just customizing the D-pad? And Chris said players will have the ability to customize each of the 4 emotes on the D-pad/keyboard. So that is how the system is going to work as opposed to the current 1 button, which is now customizable. Something a lot of us are still asking about is their functionality to dismantle all the shaders in a single slot, which we know is something they're working on, but for some reason is taking a lot of time. And Chris said they're going to be posting an article explaining the technical challenge and why it's so difficult and why they haven't fixed it so easily and when to expect a solution. So look out for that soon. As we know, Masterwork Armour is coming next Tuesday with the January update. It wasn't exactly made clear what kind of feature you can re-roll. We know the benefit is going to be more armor resistance when you're using a super. In the development update, they mentioned being able to change the stat type of armor, but it isn't exactly clear what that means. And Chris clarified that does mean you can re-roll it from being recovery to mobility or resilience, whichever one of those ones you want, and that is what stat types mean. He was asked if there's any chance that bounties might return in Destiny 2, like the ones we got from the bounty tracker back in Destiny 1, and Chris said in a roundabout way, maybe there's a chance, but not exactly yes or no. Obviously, milestones are pretty much the replacement for significant rewards, and challenges are kind of the smaller version that give you a few tokens, but I don't think many people really pay attention to challenges, to be honest. I don't personally. I think bounties would be cool. The more stuff to do, the better, definitely. And then he was also asked if he'll do another live stream with Deej in the near future, and he said it seems inevitable, yes. So obviously a very vague answer, but I don't think they'll do anything for development updates, most likely for DLC number 2, where they sit down and reveal stuff about the expansions. Obviously, the most recent time they did live streams was back in November for Curse of Osiris, and they were not received well at all. That was the 2 tokens and a blue thing, and they even cancelled the 3rd and final live stream. They're definitely going to approach them differently in the future. It's going to be interesting to see how they turn out. So next up, let's talk about Bungie and a few changes that seem to be going on behind the scenes, definitely worth being aware of. So something that sparked a lot of interest recently is that Bungie are actually looking to hire a new community manager. So currently Deej and Cosmo, as you probably know, are the 2 main community managers, and DMG helps them out too as well. But this job listing, a lot of people speculated maybe one of them is leaving. So as it turns out, that isn't actually the case. Both Cosmo and Deej clarified this by saying neither are going anywhere and definitely aren't leaving Bungie anytime soon. Deej did say how he works a lot more behind the scenes on communications roles, which I guess is why they're looking for another person, and essentially they're getting someone additional to probably help out with all the community managing that is needed right now more than ever. So I think the more people to talk to the community, the better, and it is going to be interesting to see who else they add to the team, because you'll probably be hearing a lot from them this year. Now, something else pretty interesting and also worth noting is that Eric Hirschberg, the CEO of Activision, has actually left the company. You probably recognize him for speaking at the conference calls, and he was the last one on stage at the Destiny 2 reveal event, but he isn't leaving for any dramatic reason that we know of, and he wasn't fired. Activision said, thank you, Eric Hirschberg, for 8 fantastic years as CEO of Activision. It's been an incredible run. Nothing like going out on top with Call of Duty World War II, and Destiny 2 is the #1 and #2 console games in North America in 2017 based on revenue. So those are some of his accomplishments. I've seen a lot of people asking and speculating if this means no more microtransactions, or if they'll change their stance on loot boxes. I mean, if you ask me, I doubt it personally. I mean, this is just one CEO. He definitely isn't the founder of microtransactions. there are entire teams of executives and stakeholders, a lot of these huge gaming companies that come up with them. But they are looking, of course, for a new CEO to replace him, and who knows, maybe the replacement is going to be more or less in favor of loot boxes. It could go either way. So, like I said, it isn't down to one person, and also bear in mind it isn't the highest position. Activision is just a company under Activision Blizzard, and I'm sure they're the ones that make a lot more of the decisions with their own CEO. So something pretty interesting nonetheless. He was there for 8 years, and we're used to seeing him present all the new COD and Destiny games, but now someone else is going to replace him. So there you go, yet another roundup of several bits of news, info, and updates about Destiny 2, and things to bear in mind. As always, if you enjoyed the video and want to help support the channel, then a like rating down below would always be much appreciated. If you want to stay up to date with my latest videos, then you can, of course, subscribe with the notifications turned on to never miss a new video from me. In the meantime, you can click the image on screen right now to watch my latest Destiny 2 video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.